My girlfriend, 28, and I, 32 male, have been together for 6 years. Recently, she bought a property that's under hers and her parents' name. I'm not happy she did it because now we can't get our own property, which was our plan once we got married. Still, she claimed that I was never interested in looking at property, even though she has mentioned it many times before. In my defense, she's been talking about buying or renting for years, but little to no action to go through with it. So I didn't think she was serious. Also, I didn't want to get her hopes up that I would propose soon, because that was our initial plan, get a piece of property before marriage. Now the place is under renovation, but she's making the final decision on everything, e.g. color scheme, bed frame, kitchen layout. She occasionally asks for my opinion, but I told her I'm not interested, since she kept referring to it as her place. I asked her what would happen once we were married, and she said that I could move in with her, which is fine, but she expects me to contribute to her mortgage, in addition to splitting the bills equally. I told her that it wasn't fair, because I didn't want to contribute to something that doesn't legally belong to me. And she said that I was ridiculous, because I was willing to rent, which was almost the same. I told her that she was the one who changed the initial plan, but she argued that she was always dead set on getting her own place. She's been living with her parents because it was more economical, but it's my fault that I never took her seriously. I explained that she was always looking at places, and she said that it's stupid to think that you could buy a place immediately without knowing what the other available options are, so she was perusing to see what she would want. It wasn't like I ignored her. I listened to her, but didn't feel like going through the whole viewing process, etc., because it's boring to me even though she finds it exciting, for whatever reason. I thought she'd put in more effort to try to get me to at least see the place before deciding, but instead she took her parents. I still stand by the fact that I do not want to contribute to her mortgage, since the place won't be legally mine, but she refuses to budge because she says the property purchase was between her and her parents, who are partially contributing to it. As for the proposal part, she tried to tell me that she was trying to ask me for a timeline, so she knew whether or not to purchase the property with me or by herself. I don't like to be pressured, so I told her to knock it off. You are the idiot. Come on, dude, she really tried to include you and figure out if it was worth waiting any longer to buy a property with you instead, and you gave her nothing. You really can't be annoyed that she's getting on with her dream of owning her own home rather than waiting indefinitely for marriage when you won't even give her a timeline after 6 years. You didn't take it seriously. You have no immediate plans of getting married and building a future together, and so your girlfriend is getting on with her life rather than hanging around waiting for you to decide to take her seriously. And here you are, OP, upset that she's building her way to financial independence and that you have no control over her property/finances. That is pretty messed up. You are the idiot. You'll happily pay rent, but not to pay it to her for a property you intend to live in. I hope she sees how you are before she makes the mistake of becoming legally bound to someone so incredibly insecure, short-sighted, undermining, and unappreciative. Exactly. Pretty sure they will never get married, and OP is angry because she won't wait forever for him. In my experience, the guys who drag their heels like this on big life decisions aren't happy in the relationship that they're in. They're comfortable, sure, and they probably like their partner, which is why they won't actively end it. Still, that dissatisfaction is what causes them to drag their heels and refuse to move forward. Whether consciously or subconsciously, they have that one foot out of the door. They're just waiting for that push. If 6 years isn't long enough for you to know whether or not you want to marry someone/buy a house with them, what are you waiting for? He will marry and impregnate the next woman he dates in under 6 months, every time. You are the idiot. At 28, it's not unreasonable for her to want to make the next moves in life. House, marriage, maybe kids. You don't want to get her hopes up about a proposal coming, but you want her to be committed to you and not make major life decisions without you. She's tired of waiting on you to get off your butt and do something, so she did it herself. OP, I wouldn't worry about any future plans with her. She's clearly outgrown you. It's just a matter of time until her heart catches up with her head. I'm 30 male, and my wife is 29. Yesterday night, my wife at 3 a.m. woke me and said, Babe, I want something to eat. I wake up and say, okay, what do you want to eat? She says, I want some ice cream. I said, okay, I'll get you some from downstairs. Which one do you want? We have the vanilla or the chocolate one. She says, I don't want either of those. I want this Breyers Reese's ice cream. I want that one. Give me that. I said, but babe, we don't have that one. She then says, well, get me some, please. I'm your wife. Come on. You know I got a baby in my stomach. You're feeding 2 people. Keep in mind we live in a rural area with a small population. Convenience stores and grocery stores don't open till 6 a.m. where we live. None of them do. The only one that is open is the Circle K one, which is almost 2 hours from where we live, in the city nearby. Again, we live in a rural area, so driving 2 hours to get ice cream doesn't make sense. I thought about ordering that ice cream on GoPuff or Uber Eats, and I checked my phone that none of that is available in our zip code. So then I told my wife, well, babe, I guess you have to wait. Sorry, I can get you some when it turns 6, but there are still 3 hours left. I mean, we still have chocolate and vanilla ice cream at home. You can eat that. And when it turns 6, I'll drive over and get you that. It's not a problem. Then my wife just makes a grunting noise and says, fine. It turns out my wife texted her dad about it, and he called me up and asked me why I didn't get his baby girl the food she wanted. I told him that we live in a rural area and stores don't open till 6, so we don't have any delivery options nearby, and I can get it for her at 6, but not now. He told me I was a bad father for not helping my pregnant wife. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Just because someone's pregnant doesn't mean the world revolves around them. It was an unreasonable request, and the fact that you went to some lengths to try to at least fulfill it shows that you are definitely far from a bad father. The bigger issue is your wife tattling to daddy and then him butting in. That needs to just stop, or else he can drive 2 hours and get it. She's being high maintenance and giving pregnant women a bad name. Not the idiot. Expecting you to drive 2 hours in the middle of the night to get a very specific type of ice cream is completely unreasonable. Also, I wonder how the ice cream will survive 2 hours in the car without a good cooler box. You looked for ways to get it for her possibly, but it wasn't going to work. She needs to grow up, and her dad needs to butt out of your relationship. Like, gosh, I get the pregnancy craving can be strong, but this is just a ridiculous expectation on your wife's part. I was pregnant twice. Although I had cravings, I would never ask my SO to drive hours to get something I craved. This is just being an idiot. Another point, she's pregnant, not disabled, so if she absolutely had to have that particular ice cream, she could drive herself to get it. Or Daddy Dearest could haul his butt out of bed and go get it if he thinks she really needs it to survive the night. Ever since my female 33, husband 37, began working for this company, he became good friends with his coworkers. His boss is the strict type who doesn't tolerate being late for work, which is something my husband is guilty of and constantly gets in trouble for. He is not a morning person and hates waking up early. Always did. I've taken it upon myself to wake him up, since his job was literally in jeopardy for constantly being late. Every morning is an absolute nightmare. He'd stay in bed until 7:30, refuses to wake up. He gets so aggressive he'd knock off the alarm clock, push his phone off the nightstand, put the pillow over his head, literally scream, "Go away! I'm trying to get some sleep, you blank." When I try to wake him up, I try everything from shouting to removing the pillow and sheets, to shaking him to tickling him, to spraying him with water. And he'd wake up eventually, but be in a terrible mood. Despite all that, he'd end up being late for work over a sock or waiting for his phone to charge. This is our life, and I'm not complaining. However, it's Thanksgiving. We're in Canada. He invited his coworkers over for dinner. I could tell he was trying to impress them, since they were older than him. They were talking about how he's good at everything, except that he's always late. He shrugged and said it's not his fault he's always late, since he wakes up at 5:30, walks the dogs, gets the kids ready for school, makes breakfast, cleans up the kitchen, packs lunch, then spends almost 40 minutes waking me up. I was floored, like I couldn't believe he was talking about us. I saw the judging look on his coworkers' faces as they all started telling him that their wives don't treat them this way. One of them asked me if I gave my husband thanks for the tremendous work, but I said, wait, This couldn't be further from the truth. I said, actually, if it wasn't for me, he'd never wake up. I'm the one who constantly wakes him up, and he doesn't even know how to set his alarm properly, let alone wake up to what he said he does. His coworkers got quiet, and he looked shocked. I explained how hard I try to wake him up every day, and they started side-eyeing him. He looked upset yet embarrassed and went off on me once they left, saying I ruined his reputation and embarrassed him in front of them just to feed my ego. He said, it's Thanksgiving and you ruined it for me. What's wrong with you? Then walked out. I don't know if I should apologize for the awkward dinner. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Stop enabling him. Tell him you aren't going to wake him up anymore. Ask if he wants help setting his alarm, but that's it. Make him acknowledge that he heard you say you won't wake him up with a full sentence. Really, it matters. Tell him you won't help him get ready. Then ignore the issue. Ignore the whole thing. Just take care of the kids and your stuff. Can't add his share of the house and kids at this step, much as I think he needs to step up. And tell him that you're disgusted by him lying to his coworkers. Ask him why he tried to make his wife look bad by describing his own rotten behavior and assigning it to her. Tell him trying to make you lie for him was a terrible thing to do, and he owes you an apology. Stories like this often amaze me. So a 37-year-old guy isn't able to get his own butt out of bed in the morning to get to work? I can understand this from a bratty teenager, but 37? OP, you're married to a child. Seriously, no one likes getting up in the morning, but when you have responsibilities, getting your butt to work to put money in your pocket, food on your table, and a roof over your head, you bite the bullet and drag yourself out of bed on time. Your husband clearly is the idiot. First of all, he isn't grateful that you wake him up, clearly telling since he yells at you when you try. Second, it's an idiot move to blatantly make up a huge story and paint you in a bad light to his coworkers. Maybe you should stop waking him up and let him lose his job because he isn't responsible enough. She does one thing wrong though, which is enabling his behavior daily. I don't believe anyone acting like this in the morning is stable in all other life situations. He will probably tell his coworkers that she's a compulsive liar. She's not there once they're back in the office. The only way to avoid his behavior is to walk away. But OP is a doormat every morning, so I doubt she'll do it. My parents and I have a strained and distant relationship. I was their oldest growing up, and my two younger siblings were born with special needs/disabilities. My brother has autism, and my sister was starved of oxygen at birth and had disabilities relating to that. My siblings function like children, and growing up, our house was designed for their comfort and needs, and our lives revolved around that. I wasn't allowed friends over. I wasn't allowed birthday parties or any kind of birthday celebration. I would get in trouble for making noise. They would even take gifts off me sometimes. My best friend bought me a CD player when I was a teenager, and they didn't like that it made noise near my siblings' bedrooms. The house was quiet. Even how loud I talked could get me into trouble. It made me resent my parents. It felt like they forgot me while trying to be good parents to my siblings. We discussed it once and never again. Finally, they told me that my siblings had more needs than I did, so I needed to be understanding. I'm now a mom and I could not imagine going through what they did, but I also couldn't imagine letting one of my kids suffer because of it. Yes, life would need to be different, but I would do everything to give them as many experiences as I could. My parents didn't see that as a priority. I refused to let them do it with my kids too. My parents have met my kids once. My oldest recently had a birthday, and my parents wanted me to cancel my oldest birthday party to bring my siblings. They sent me a list of all these demands, and I told them no, that I would not let my siblings' needs get in the way of my kids having fun while they're kids. I would not let it spoil these moments for them as it did for me. My parents were pissed. They were outraged that I would say that to them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're doing your absolute best to be a good and loving parent, and I applaud your empathy for your parents when they weren't the same as you. They were trying to do their best in a difficult situation, but in being good parents to their other two children, they were not good ones to you at all. That sounds so isolating and honestly an awful way to grow up. I'm so sorry. Your kids' needs trump your siblings' needs in your own home. I'd also like to point out how ridiculous it sounds for them to ask you to cancel a child's party on their birthday so they can visit on that day. If the birthday is important, the party can't be canceled. If the birthday isn't important, they can visit any other day when there isn't a party. Agree, Jesus Christ, to demand the cancellation of a 5-year-old's birthday party so that your siblings can come visit instead without any discomfort on their part or your parents' part is absurd. If they want to host some family celebration for your kiddo, they can do that themselves, and you can choose if you and your family want to attend. I'm autistic myself. While noises can be overstimulating, I would never think to tell my brothers to give up things they enjoy just because it might bother me. Headphones are a thing, and EarPro is great. Growing up, my parents never treated me differently. They wanted me to be able to cope with the world, not be isolated from it. Your parents, frankly, were terrible in the way that they treated you, and you absolutely should not allow that around your children. Having a different kid is not a license to treat your other kids differently. My mom has been living in a house that belonged to my dad. They were divorced, and he wanted her to have a good place to stay. He passed away last year, and I inherited the place. After checking out the place and running the numbers, I learned that the place is in terrible shape. It needs a ton of repairs. My mom doesn't take good care of it, and he has only been charging her $500 per month, which is almost 1/6 the market rate. I will be losing money on this place. I do not have a good relationship with my mother. She's racist. My wife is Mexican, and my mother asked her if she was dating me for a green card. I have had minimal contact with her since I found out her true colors. I have no interest in spending my family's money on her. I've told her about 6 months ago that I would be doubling the rent, and I was dead serious about it. She didn't take me seriously. I've presented her with a new contract, and she's bitterly angry with me. She can't afford to pay it. She got a substantial part of my dad's assets when they divorced. I'm sure she still has the money. I feel like an idiot because she's stubborn, and she is strong-arming my brother into moving in with him. My brother and his wife are softies who can't say no to her thin veneer of politeness. I feel like crap because she'll probably move in with them and make their life a nightmare. We are not exactly hurting for money, and I feel like an idiot for creating a situation where my brother will have to take her in. Not the idiot. Your brother needs to learn to draw boundaries with your mother, and it looks like he's signing up for the master class. This will be an essential life lesson for him. I'd straight up evict her and charge her for any property damage, but then again, I delight in making racist people's lives difficult. Not the idiot. You're not creating a situation where your brother has to take her in. She can afford to stay where she is, and your brother can say no. It's not on you to keep him from making bad choices for his own life, and you're not obligated to let your mother be a drain on you. You're not even asking standard market value from her, just enough to maintain and deal with repairs. That's reasonable. You are the idiot. If your father owned the property and rented it to your mother, as landlord and property owner, it was his job to maintain it, not your mother's. If your father did not maintain his rental property, it is not worth the high rent in its current condition. This feels a bit like revenge towards your mother, and you are also punishing her for your father's failure to maintain the property. Doubling the rent on a property that the landlord hasn't maintained is pretty rough, but it's what slumlords do to drive out tenants. It may make more sense to sell the property if you don't want the problems of being a landlord. Prioritize repairs and gradually increase the rent as the property improves.